Jimmy Kempski from PhillyVoice.com joins us. You were probably just as confused as we were because one guy said he wasn't going to practice, and it seemed like he did. Voila! How about that, Kempski? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, bud. So this seems like a never-ending thing with Chip Kelly and this team that he says something, then the exact opposite happens.
Yeah. I don't know if he's just messing with us or what, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, because we get to see the first, X number of minutes of practice, so we can see who's practicing and who isn't. I don't even know. It doesn't really even make – I mean, I never understand the question, like, is so-and-so going to practice today? Because we're going to be able to see it in a second anyway. In terms of, like, where a player is in terms of their progression heading forward and whether they're going to play on Sunday, I can certainly understand that question. But, again, in terms of whether they're going to practice or not, I think it's kind of a waste of, 10 seconds.
Right.
Because everyone's going to see it anyway in a minute anyway. So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, you can see who's out there. I was not there today. I was actually speaking on some journalism panel today because of, my journalism integrity. But joking. But, yeah, Peters apparently did practice today. He had a helmet on. He was taped up. So, that's a guy who practiced. And yesterday, Lane Johnson said that he was taking most of the reps this week, or he thought rather that he was going to be playing right tackle this week, although he was getting reps on both sides. So, if he thinks he's playing right tackle, then obviously the assumption that you can make is that Peters is playing left. So I think Lane Johnson thinks that Peters is going to play this week.
All right, so that would be a big help, obviously, not having him the last 2 weeks. Obviously they made it through one game, but last week it was a big problem for them up front. Obviously the Bradford Sanchez stuff, everybody has a side, it seems like, on this one. But are you getting the feeling that Sanchez is going to be the guy on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's totally unrealistic to think that Sam Bradford's going to be back. I mean, he hadn't passed the protocol, the concussion protocol, as of yesterday anyway. Again, like I said, I was there today, so I'm a little behind. But, yeah, he didn't pass the protocol concussion. He's got an AC joint sprain, which is the same thing as a separated shoulder, although there are always, levels of there are always degrees to every injury. But, yeah, I don't think he's going to play. I mean, there's the thinking that he possibly can play, but I don't see that happening this week anyway. We'll see how that goes. I would guess, and again, this is a complete guess, is that he'll miss this game, and then I would guess he's going to miss Thanksgiving, and I would think that he'll probably, again, complete guess, that he'll be back for, when they go on the road to take on the Patriots.
So, and that was going to be my follow-up. I mean, is there anything Sanchez could do for Chip Kelly to say, you know what, we're rolling, the offense looks like it's moving a little bit better, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with this?
I don't think it's 100% out of the question. Well, first of all, Sanchez has to play well. And, from what we've seen so far from him both last season and this season, he really hasn't done that. I mean, he's had a few, nice moments here and there. And I think what Sanchez is what we saw last Sunday, where certainly the offense moves faster when Sanchez is in there than when Bradford's in there. He made some nice throws. He made some questionable throws, and then certainly the throw to Miles Austin in the end zone that Miles Austin was completely unready for certainly contributed to the interception there. But again, was just not a smart throw. I mean, you're trying to make a window throw there when I believe it was still first down, and you're down. I mean, if in that situation, if you do nothing more than not score a touchdown, you're going to get 3 points. You're going to take the lead in that situation. So, if it's not there, you just throw it away. And he didn't do that. He tried to force it in, and he's done that throughout his career, and it got picked. So, that's kind of what Sanchez has been throughout his career. That last game was sort of a microcosm of his career. So, first of all, Sanchez has to play well. So you have to get by that obstacle in the first place. If he does play well, you have to determine, well, did he play well just because he was playing two, bad teams, the Buccaneers and the Lions? And you have to really kind of look at his individual performance and determine whether, what he had going for him in those games. What was it a result of, the run game was going well, the defense was playing well, were receivers getting open. So it's really, it's the kind of thing where they're going to have to look at his individual performance and the throws that he makes and the way that he runs the offense and sort of compare that to what Sam Bradford has done this season. And I think that it would have to be an overwhelming difference. I think it would just have to be clear cut. Right. That he was the best option going forward. So I don't think they're going to make that change full time unless it's really just totally obvious that Sanchez is the better player, and I think he'd have to actually play lights out for that to happen.
Well, that's interesting because it would seem like from most of the naked eyes, untrained out there, Jimmy, that these two guys are, pretty similar. I mean, I don't know. Some people would say, well, Bradford's a better quarterback, but Sanchez fits the system better, or that they're both pretty similar. It just seems that there is no discernible better guy, that if everything's moving and you're winning, why rock the boat? You know what I mean? Like if a guy sit out for 2 weeks and you're 2-0, it'd be like, all right, they seem like the same player. Why don't we just stick with them?
Yeah, I get it.
Or are they not the same player? Is that being too general? Is Bradford clearly better than Sanchez?
I don't think they're the same player. I think their attributes are different. I think that Bradford has a better arm, although I don't think there's a huge difference there. Sanchez is a little more mobile. Sanchez, like I said, is running the offense more quickly. Now I don't know if that's just because he feels more comfortable doing it that way, or he's been in the offense a year longer than Bradford, or what it is. But he does run the offense a little bit more quickly. And, again, I don't know if that's a good thing because, what we saw was – and I don't remember who was in the game for this, so I don't know if this is the best thing to point to, but obviously Riley Cooper was, not lined up on the touchdown that they scored that got called back. I don't know if you remember who was in the game at that point, if it was Bradford or Sanchez. I believe it was Sanchez because I believe it was late in the game.
Oh, it was Sanchez. He threw the touchdown pass to Ertz.
Oh, it was Sanchez that threw the pass. Yeah, okay, you're right. So, yeah, I mean, maybe going too fast is something that this offense, that has, as Chip would say, 4 new players, when the reality is it's more like 10. When you have so many new players into an offense and you've kind of seen what they've done so far this year and that they haven't always been on the same page, and they don't always look like they have all the details straight, and they, seem to not have a lot of cohesion. I don't know that, going faster is really all that big of a benefit, and that's kind of what Sanchez gives you. So, again, I don't know if they're really the same guy or not, but I don't believe their attributes are certainly exact by any measure. But I do think that what you've seen from both of them this year is that they both turn the ball over, and I don't think it's going to change really from either guy, although Bradford has sort of, has certainly improved in that area as the season has progressed.
Yeah, and if I put my Illuminati hat on for you, Jimmy, you know what? Quicker offense means more plays, which means Sanchez could theoretically run more plays than Bradford and push him under 50%.
Then there's no way. I get where you're going with that, where, if he doesn't play 50% of the snaps, then they get the Rams' 4th-round pick, I believe.
Yeah, 4th-rounder.
But I think he played enough games in that or enough snaps in that 9th game that there's no way that they're going to be able to make up the snaps to bypass that 50% mark. Because basically it would have to be an entire extra game's worth of snaps. Because it's not just a half game of a half of 9 games. I don't want to get into too much. I'm going to sound like an idiot getting into too much smack here, but I think it's just going to be really, really, really unrealistic to get to a point where they play more snaps without Bradford than with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess Bradford played 8 games plus a half of the 9th game, which means Sanchez would be playing a half of a game plus 7 more. So they would have to run, if they're running more plays. It's about a game and a half difference. So, it would be a long shot, but, I guess they could at least try to get there if they're running more plays.
Well, I don't think they're going to base the rest of their season around getting a 4th-round pick.
No, but you know what? The interesting part about that is, what is Bradford's future? The way that he's played now, and this kind of clouds everything up. That he's not on the field. Is it going to be harder for them to make a determination whether they, in fact, want to bring him back next year?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think they want to see him as much as they can. Obviously, because they think that if they're going to make any kind of run in the playoffs, and from my perspective, your perspective, and a big chunk of the fan base perspective, that's wholly unrealistic at this point. But, from their perspective, where they're doing everything that they can to put themselves in a position to win a Super Bowl, which, again, we think is unrealistic. But I think from their perspective is their only chance, really, is to do that with a healthy and a continuing to improve Sam Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's ready to go, he's going to be back in there. And I think that that's what they feel is their best chance to win. Now, secondarily, they also want to see him play as much as they possibly can so that they can evaluate him and see if they want to sign him to a contract extension, so he's still on the team in 2016 and beyond.
Jimmy Kempski, PhillyVoice.com. The Eagles and the Buccaneers this weekend. You talked about Riley Cooper, Miles Austin. Chip Kelly seems to think that those guys are adequate outside threats here. And I would assume, this is just kind of going back to training camp, but did they have anybody in there that would be better options than these two guys? Is there anybody that was in camp? I get people asking me all the time about, I guess, who was the kid from Del Valle?
Bailey?
Right. What happened to him? But are there any other options, or is this just what they're running with and stuck with, or does Chip really, really believe that it's not their fault?
There's a guy like that every year that everyone thinks is awesome because he played okay in the preseason.
And normally he played locally. Normally he played at some local college.
A year ago it was Henry Josie. Remember him, the running back?
Yeah.
Where he had a big game. I think he gets the Patriots, and then somebody else. Good game against somebody else. And then this year it was, the Camp Darling. Actually, there's a name for it. It's called the Nay Brown Award. Nay Brown, way back in the day, from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Lit up training camp, and then really did much as a player. So there always seems to be a guy that has good training camp that everyone seems to fall in love with, back of the roster kind of guy. And then there was the one year where who was the outside linebacker, Chris something. He wound up with the Jaguars. I forget his name, but every year there's a guy like that. Rasheed Bailey currently isn't on an NFL roster as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
A quick Google search will tell you that one. But no, I don't think there's anything available right now. If there was an available receiver right now that could play, he'd be on some team right now. So I think they're just kind of stuck with what they have. I know they worked out some guys this week. They worked out a guy that was in Giants training camp at some point this week, and apparently they didn't think enough of him to bring him in.
Well, you see guys like, I guess, Welker just signs with the Rams. You got Hakeem Nicks who signs with the Giants. I don't know that they're better than what you got, but it seems like at least give them a workout. Try them out and see. It doesn't even seem that they're bringing people in at that position to say, you know what, your guys' jobs are on the line because you keep making mistakes. So at least, Dorenbos has one bad snap in 15 years. They bring two guys in for his job. These guys are terrible every single week, and it doesn't seem like anybody's there pushing them.
Miles Austin, that signing never made sense at any point. Never. And he was going to be 31 years old this summer. He was injury prone for the entirety of his career. He hadn't had a catch of 40-plus yards since 2011, I think, or 2012 maybe. I documented all this, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. But it's been a long time since he made any kind of big play. And he's had 2 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, and he hadn't played special teams in 5 years. So if you're a 4 or 5 receiver, you got to play special teams. And he hadn't played in a long time. And again, like I said, he was 31. And they pay him $2.25 million. That signing was utterly ridiculous, and it made no sense now. And it certainly doesn't make any sense. I don't mean to to pat myself on the back for saying it was a dumb signing, but he's exactly what I thought he would be, which is just a receiver that is not good. I didn't think he was going to be actually, that's not totally true. I didn't think he was going to be as bad as he has been. He's not even looking for passes that are being thrown his way. It's crazy that we mentioned the pass that Sanchez threw to him in the end zone. He wasn't ready for it. Then on that last drive, he's running across the middle. He's wide open. Sanchez throws him the ball. He's completely oblivious that a ball might be coming his way. Ball goes incomplete, which would have otherwise probably been a big gain. So, he's just really, really been bad. And Riley Cooper, meanwhile, hasn't had a pass thrown to him. Forget making catches. He hasn't had a pass thrown to him since the Giants game. It's been over a month since Riley Cooper had a football thrown at him in a real NFL game.
But Chip would say that's not always his fault. The fact that he hasn't been targeted is not his fault. And the crazy thing is, Jimmy, for some reason, Bradford is staring down Miles Austin on third down, and then Sanchez did the same thing as if he's the guy they trust more than anybody. It's almost mind-boggling to me. On every big situation, the ball is going in the direction of Miles Austin.
There were 4 times in the Jets game, and remember the Jets game, they got that big lead in the first half. And then in the second half, they're just trying to bleed clock and run the ball, and they barely got any first downs at all. There were 4 times in that game, and I think all of them were in the second half. Again, I'm not totally sure on that, but the majority of them at least were in the second half. They threw to him on key third down spots 4 times and didn't get one of them. So, you're right. I mean, for whatever reason, they not only have him on the team, and I don't think he should be in the NFL at all, but they use him, and they use him to an extreme degree. He has the second most snaps from the wide receiver position on the team, only behind Jordan Matthews.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And last week, I know people get caught up with certain guys. Everybody wants to see Sproles get the ball more. Now, finally, Sproles, it only took him 25 games before he finally said he wants to get the ball a little bit more. The fans love to see a guy like Ertz. And I don't know that it's hey, Ertz is the second coming of Mark Bavaro, but he looks like a guy who has some talent. You drafted him in the second round. Let me see you utilize him. They finally start to utilize him, and then he vanishes in the second half. And did the Dolphins take him away, or did Kelly say, you know what, I just don't want to go to my tight ends because that's not what I want to do?
Well, they did the touchdown that was called back. So
yes.
they did get that to him in the second half, but obviously
thanks to Riley Cooper.
But I'm with you. He and Jordan Matthews, in my opinion, are the 2 best weapons in their offense from a receiver or tight end standpoint, anyway. So those are the guys that you have to get the ball to, and lots are made of those guys being on the inside. And Pat Shurmur said the thing about look at the Patriots, they go inside out too, and a lot was made of stop comparing yourself to the Patriots. The Patriots are way better than your team right now. So, but I get what they're doing. I understand where you want to get the ball to Matthews and or you want to go inside out because that's where your strength is. But I don't know if it's really that they're doing that so much, or it's because the guys on the outside just aren't able to produce.
Jimmy Kempski, PhillyVoice.com, and the Eagles getting ready for the Buccaneers this weekend. We talked about this on Tuesday's show a lot. I said basically, Jimmy, there's 25 football cities that are having the same show that I'm having. They're all, we stink, we're miserable, we don't have enough talent, we're inconsistent, we can't do this, we can't do that. That's basically the state of the NFL. There's 4 teams who really are any good. Everybody else is 4-5, 3-6, 5-4, or 500. So is it preposterous to say that, right after Thanksgiving, last year this team was 9-3. They went down the tubes. Right after Thanksgiving, could they click, turn it together, and start to get hot? Do they have the talent to be that team?
Well, the one thing they have going in their favor is defense has been really good. And I think anytime you lose, no matter how the loss happens, the entire team is going to get some kind of blame from some kind of faction of the fan base. But I thought the defense actually played pretty well against the Dolphins last week. The one touchdown that they gave up, of course, came after a blocked punt. And then the other touchdown that they gave up, while the Dolphins did drive the field, they did get it on that weird deflection. So it was kind of like a fluky play where they scored on that. I believe that was a third down, too, when they scored. It would have otherwise been a field goal. And then at the end of the game, I think, people had kind of pointed to that they gave up some first downs, late in that game. But ultimately, they got the Dolphins to punt a few times and gave the offense the opportunity to win the game, which they were unable to do. So you look at the defense and the amount of points that they've given up per drive this season. And I think per drive is the thing to note there, because when you look at what the Eagles are, they run that tempo offense. So they're going to have more drives both offensively and defensively. I think that the stat to look at there is how many points per drive are they giving up? How many yards per drive are they giving up? Don't look at them in terms of yards per game and points per game, because I think it's an unfair comparison both for the offense, which I think their numbers are skewed high in that regard, and the defense, they're also skewed high, but but negatively towards defense. So the defense has actually been excellent this year in terms of points per drive and yards per drive, and then they're number 1 in the NFL at least heading into this week in turnovers. Takeaways per drive. They're number 1 in the NFL. So they've really turned the ball over a ton. They're only second in the NFL to the Giants in turnovers per game. Giants have really turned people over like crazy this season. That's the reason that not that talented roster is leading the NFC East right now. But, I think the defense has played really well. I think it's a defense that can win you games as long as you play average on offense.
Yes.
They haven't been able to do this season.
That is accurate, and that's what maybe Sanchez can do, just make them be average. We'll see. He'll get it probably, most likely, the chance to start on Sunday against Tampa. And Jimmy Kempski's over at PhillyVoice.com, and we have good times here on Thursdays here on 97.3. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Take care. Jimmy Kempski, everybody.